We're going to be having a chit-chat about navigating the Australian art scene as creative practitioners, and in particular creative women, in a sometimes difficult and hostile art world. So I'll just begin by introducing our panellists. So to my left is Makeda Zucco. Makeda is an amazing electronic DJ, producer and sound artist. I have Yandell Walton, who is a visual artist and amazing projection artist, and you can see some of her works up on the screen at the moment, and she'll kind of talk us through her current projects as well. And we have Leah Jing McIntosh, founder of Liminal magazine, and an accomplished writer, editor and photographer. So yeah, I might get everyone to kind of start by talking about what they're working on at the moment.
Okay, so I work between experimental sound, performance, and DJing. At the moment I'm working on an old work actually that I've sort of resurrected called Performing Femininity. And so that work came out of studying postgrad and an experience that I had that was pretty unpleasant and led me to dropping out of the first year. And it sort of had to do with expectations around how I was to perform as a woman, and the sort of embodied movement and sexualization as a performer, and also as a brown person, and sort of having that experience, I guess, sort of undermined by a lot of the white people I was staying with. You know, you're not brown enough, surely you haven't had these sort of experiences. Yeah, so that work is premiering this Friday at Arts House, and I'm playing with Mkezi and DJ Plead, who's a really amazing producer from here, and also 33 MBYW, or San, depending on which camp you're in. I'm not sure how her name's pronounced, but we'll find out this Friday, who's a really amazing Chinese artist. So yeah, that's this Friday if anyone wants to come along. It should be fun.
Cool. Yeah, Yandell, do you want to talk us through your work up here? Oh, well, just as I said.
Maybe put just put on the. I hope it just. Maybe we should just put the sound on.
Is it?
Oh, actually, I'll do that here. Just in case something. You know how something else plays and then. Hi, I'm Yandell. I'm a visual artist. I have been working predominantly with moving image and projection for over 15 years. I actually come from originally a printmaking background, so it was interesting how I kind of made my way into using technology, I suppose, because back when I did my undergraduate, we didn't even learn Photoshop or the Creative Suite or anything like that. That wasn't even within the visual arts courses. But I think I was just never really good at drawing, so I think I just came from making prints using sort of photographic techniques, and then that led me to pick up my first video camera that led into using projection. And I am really interested in how, I think what drew me to working with moving image was the way moving image projection can actually merge the actual space with the virtual space. So creating really kind of immersive imagery, or immersive spaces that connect to the viewer. I kind of always knew I wanted to be an artist, mainly, which is interesting because it connects to other things that I do now, I suppose. Mainly because I couldn't really express some kind of challenges when I was really young, except for through my arts practice. So as a youth growing up, art was really important for me to have a voice and to express myself. And now that's the same as well now, I suppose. A lot of my work's about impermanence, impermanence in a range of sort of ideas throughout my practice, more so sort of death and mortality and the otherworldly, but then it's kind of moved into my most recent work, Shifting Surrounds, which is more about the impermanent nature of the world around us and our effect on our environment. Aside from my arts practice, I also do a lot of mentoring and community collaborative projects. So my favourite probably is working with young people, and again that's because I can help facilitate their voices.
Beautiful, thank you.
I just wanted to be playing the whole show.
Yeah, so calming.
Oh, this is fun.
I'm Leah Jing McIntosh. I run Liminal magazine, which is...
Oh, sorry.
Giving another spiel.
I'm like, I'm going to finish. You can just stop.
Like, by the way, we'll just go back to it. No worries.
Yeah, what happened?
So,
Start again.
Liminal is a space for the exploration of the Asian Australian identity. So we've been we publish an interview every Monday, and we've done that since early 2017. And through that have created a community where we support artists through running poetry events and exhibitions. And earlier this year we partnered with Brow Books and the Australia Council to run the Liminal Fiction Prize for Writers of Colour. So that was recently announced, but the entire long list of 16 people will be published in a Brow Books anthology coming out next year, which is really cool. But yeah, so my arts practice kind of is more of a curatorial, editorial kind of focus where I try to support and elevate other voices to kind of fill the void of Asian Australian representation in the wider Australian media. Yeah.
Awesome, cool. Thank you so much. And we'll open it up to the questions that I have down here on my sheet. So artistic rejection is something we all face from time to time, and it can be really brutal. What have you found to be the most useful way of staying motivated?
I feel like this has only happened in the past year and a half for me, but I actually just try to focus on the immediate benefits that I get from my practice. It can be as simple as making a sound that is really, really cool to me. I'll just go into the studio and be working on something, and I'll be oh, this sounds so good, I'm so excited. And then just go home and share it with my housemate Jana, who's also a really amazing artist, and we'll just be sharing stuff together. So I just find sharing things immediately with my friends and doing things that make me happy within my practice is just how I focus myself. Just always bring it back to a concept that really excites me, just staying really engaged with the news and what my friends are doing, and catching up with people that place me back in my current reality, as opposed to throwing me out into comparing myself to these other international artists who might be 10 years ahead of me in terms of their practices, or who are based in countries where there's close proximity to economic systems that allow artists to survive. For example, living in Europe and being able to tour and survive off that whole economy, that's not as much of a thing here. So I just try to take myself away from focusing on that sort of stuff and focusing on just what makes me feel really fulfilled.
Awesome. Yeah, nourishing yourself through
like creative relationships and personal friendships.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, I have been practicing for so many years, so I'm probably, like mid-established career-wise, but it is worth noting that as an artist, I'm not a commercially represented artist, so I don't necessarily sell my work in that way. So for me, when I think about rejection, I think about grants that would sustain my practice. Ever since I've been young at uni, I have been applying for grants and very motivated, very passionate, and I used to get a whole lot more grants than I do now. But you never always got all of them, and you always had to not expect to get them and have contingencies and understand, like, if you can't do a project unless you get that funding, you have to understand that early, because there's definitely no guarantee. And arts funding is harder and harder and harder to get, even though my practice is getting stronger. It's just because of the dwindling arts funding. So it's really interesting. It's really, for me, it's about not expecting it and putting so many feelers out, and every time I get back a no, I get feedback. And usually I just get more pissed off with that, because it doesn't necessarily give me any critical advice to apply again. That's okay, I've done that. And then I'm like, okay, then I will reapply if I've got time before the next project. But that massive project I did that was 2 years in the making, Shifting Surrounds, was fantastic. It was funded by Australia Council, partly funded by Australia Council. I applied 3 times to get presentation funding, so that was for the development, Australia Council, presentation funding for through Creative Victoria 3 times, still didn't secure it. And that last time I did get quite upset for about half a day, and I woke up the next morning and I was like, okay, I've never done a fundraising campaign. I contacted the Australian Cultural Fund, which is a great platform. It's all creatives, and you don't have to give presents or prizes or whatever it is for the donations, and they're fully tax deductible. And so I just contacted them, and within half a day, before my partner got back actually, it was like I had downloaded a teletext app, written a script, filmed it, edited it, and sent it to the Australian Cultural Fund and applied to be on their platform. And that was fantastic, because that allowed me to connect with a philanthropic funder that had purchased my work previously, and I would have only been able to contact them if I had some sort of platform like that to be like, hey, do you want to support this amazing project? I wouldn't have been able to necessarily do that without that. Yeah, so that was really interesting. Anyway, that was good. But where was I going? Anyway, it is about not being, well, the other thing is, if you get really upset and bitter and pissed off, you're never going to apply again, are you? So you're never going to get it in the future. So, yeah.
Persistence pays off.
Persistence.
Yeah.
Persistence and being really savvy and fierce and
I love that word. I love both those words. What about you, Leah?
I've just on that, just grants have such a high bar, high bar of access. Like, you have to understand the language, and also understanding that who is in the room, might not necessarily care about your project, and they might actually have allegiances to other projects, or they, it might just hit them differently. Luckily, we've gotten grants, which is so nice, but it also means I can keep applying for them. I was actually thinking about this question in terms of rejection, because I feel like as a person of colour, I guess, in a sense, my practice is based off of the feeling of physically being rejected in the world, like not being able to see myself. So it's just this kind of pig-headed arrogance that I'm like, you will see me. Like,
I am visible. Yeah.
It's already, you're kind of already ahead of all of the other people, because you're like, I've been rejected the whole time, and I'm just going to keep making stuff and being here until I die. So I don't know if that's helpful, but that's just kind of where I'm coming from in terms of I'm just going to keep doing this thing, and it will change as I change, but yeah, rejection doesn't really scare me because I'm used to it.
Well, that actually leads into my next question, and this is for the people of colour on the panel. In an industry that so often privileges majority voices, how have you created supportive communities and zones of resistance?
I'm looking at my nose.
That's cheating.
I'm really bad with that noise.
I know, so am I.
I think mainly just through genuine friendships that just like happened pretty naturally. Like a close friend of mine who is like really supportive and really bounce energy off each other and like keep each other up is Rag Bhatia, who is like one of the main heads behind Cool Room, who have like really supported me and offered me so many amazing opportunities to support some of my favourite artists and economic opportunities as well to present new works like this one that I'm doing on Friday and like a work I did with them last year that was presented at ACME. So yeah, we support each other like emotionally as friends and also just keep ears out for opportunities for each other, always sending each other things, just like asking about each other's days and just like knowing that I have a friend to go to talk to about stuff. Like I got I got this really bizarre call out about 3 weeks ago, someone accusing me of like not being brown and like having like had a DNA test and they were like of some distant black relative, and I was like, I couldn't, they just posted on Instagram, you know, there was no person's name, there was like, it had 14 followers, which was really hilarious in itself. But I was like, okay. I just like commented saying, yeah, I guess, you know, the black person, oh, what did I say? I have to get this message up because it's really funny.
We should bring it up on screen.
I think the account's been deleted now. I think I reported them actually. But Rag and I just like had dinner a few days later, and they were so lovely and like supportive about it. I said back to them, I was like, haha, sorry that my dad is black, with like this emoji and then some like laughing faces and love hearts underneath, because like, you know, that just like can only be coming from a bitter kind of sad place. Like I've been at my most critical when I've been in a place that's like really unhappy and like bitter. So like I guess the only way I could think of combating that was just by like giving that person love and being like, oh well, this is me, you know, I talk about my experience and my work, and if you can't accept or deal with that,
it's not your problem.
It's not really my problem.
Yeah.
Instagram.
Yeah.
Segue though, Instagram, place to form community. How do you form community?
Creating supportive communities and like zones of resistance as well. And
I think that comes out of the same lack, like because we haven't had these things. I think we're in a very specific time period where there's a bunch of people who didn't have these things growing up, and now they're appearing and they're getting excited. And I think an enthusiasm and a joy kind of attracts other people who are excited about it. So yeah, I feel like Liminal has, like we've created something that people want to be a part of, and that automatically kind of ensures community, which is not to say that community didn't exist before. I don't want to like erase incredible communities of colour, but it's nice to have new ones float to the top.
And for there to be like presence online, and is Liminal in print as well?
Yeah, we published in March our first book, and we'll have another book coming out next January. Yeah, so just creating physical presences, but also internet ones.
Awesome.
Yeah, but
online.
Yeah, no, it's funny because I've also had like really positive experiences where like people have just like messaged me on Instagram, and, like your work, and then like you just like end up becoming friends. That's how we got in touch. Like you message me on, and that stuff happens like every day, and it's beautiful. And you've got to like make sure that the bad experiences don't overshadow the ones that are really beautiful and positive. And
well, that's what that platform is just so useful for, is like giving you that it allows you to kind of reach out to someone you may have never met before and just like give them props, be like, I admire your work, and would love to like get together for a coffee and a chat. It actually really that quite organically happens just as a result of reaching out. Cool. So how do you counter sexist and conservative attitudes when it comes to your practice?
That's interesting, especially working with technology. Within my practice, I have always been really I haven't really found it to be too male dominated, so it affects me personally. But I've just always put myself out there, fierce, strong, working, with new technology. But I feel like more so maybe it's obvious in like behind the scenes, so like installation and tech people, like it's really duty. So weird. It's a problem really, because it feels really really dominating when I'm dealing with installation people, and even I've worked casually on the install team at NGV in the multimedia department, and it's all men. So bizarre. But I think, me personally within my practice, even though I'm working with technology that is traditionally male dominated, sort of techie things, I'm just, I kind of haven't let that sort of stop me pushing through these things. Working even with, I'm working at the moment with 3D scanning, which is really interesting, and I've done a lot of interactive work,
and the men can just deal with it.
Totally. I feel like a lot of the men that are working within those fields have a certain aesthetic as well, or something. Within kind of interactive public artwork or something like that. It's very different to my work, I think, as well, which is interesting.
Good. Did anyone else have?
Yeah, I experienced the exact same thing, especially since I've more moved into the realm of, like, I'm sort of stepping away from touring and doing like a live show that happens at a club, and you play after a DJ, you set up your gear and just play in a club. Like, I'm more focusing on doing larger scale performances, and that where I work with dancers and lighting and visuals and like various stuff in a stage and in a space. And so with that sort of stuff, you just end up working with tech teams, and Yeah, I've had that exact same experience. Even like I've been performing now for 5 years. I know what to do in a sound check, and just having like these tech guys hovering around you less than a metre away. Do you need help, setting up your cables? Like, no, I've had the same setup with my gear for 4 years now. Like, I don't need you to help me. Like, I understand how to do it, and I understand like what I want the performance to look like. I've been working on it for 4 months, or I've been working on it for 6 months, or I've been working on it for a year. You have a specific vision of how you want something to look, and then some guy comes in and starts sort of just like setting stuff up and being like, oh no, the lighting needs to be like this, or oh no, you can't hang screens there because of blah 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 blah. So I find it just helps, especially when you're working with like for this performance on Friday, I am working with like 4 other women. It just helps having other people there being like, no, this is the vision, this is how we want to execute it. You're doing your job as a technical person to help the artist fulfill their vision, and not being rude, just being very firm about what you want it to look like, and if they try to change things, just being like, no, I'd prefer it to look like this, can we do that? And just really not backing off unless there's some specific reason that it can't be achieved, be it time, or be it that there's another artist who needs to perform within half an hour after you, as is often the case with music stuff. So just like I just try to stay true to what I want to do and be really firm about it.
Yeah, you set the terms.
Yeah. But that's only after like a long period of like being like, oh, okay, do what you want, tech person. And then it turns out like really ugly or gross, or just like not what you want it to be, and you put all this time and money into this thing and it just turns out horribly, and you're like,
I try and
letting that happen again.
I try and engage women that I can find that are doing install and tech. It's really hard, but because it's so much easier to work with. I was going to also say, in terms of people working within the medium of like projection installation, there's a lot of spectacle work like White Night and stuff like that. That's not really where my work sits, and I've done a lot of projects that I'm on the board for the Centre for Projection Art, who does the Gertrude Street Projection Festival. Some people probably know about that. So for that organisation, I volunteer in a number of capacities, and I have programmed and curated projects, and every time I'm on a board selecting artists for a certain thing, I'm always aware of gender and giving women as much as I can, always, because especially working with new media, I suppose, or technology, there is sometimes more male dominated. Depending on what it is. Although I did just run a masterclass in projection art, and every single person was a woman.
Oh, wow.
And I totally didn't even, when we were choosing, I didn't even realise at all, which must have meant that it was out of the 25 people that applied, most of them must be women anyway, because it's only when there's more males that I look at that and make sure it's even, or more so more women. But that was really interesting. So, and there are a lot of them were older women, so they're getting into this ephemeral, projection, immersive projects. It was really interesting.
Awesome. Having a play around.
Yeah.
Cool.
Sorry. Do you wanna?
No. I was just like, I don't know if I experience sexism because I don't ever choose to interview men.
That is such a fair choice. Yeah.
Actually, we're applying for the last Creative Vic grant, and we were going through all the interviews, and I think there's like an 80-20 split between women and men, and also there's like maybe 2 cis men, like cis straight men, in the whole series of like 120 people. Anyways, I did experience weird sexism this year and responded to it by essentially I complained to the Fringe CEO about a really racist thing that occurred, and I received this incredibly condescending email back saying, "I'm sorry, I'm disappointed." So myself and Mama Alto, who's this incredible diva, wrote this huge open letter and got it signed by 100 Asian Australian academics, artists and arts workers. And within the 30 minutes, they pulled the very racist show.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Such an achievement.
Such a flex.
Yeah, totally.
So upset by this email that was so immensely condescending, and I don't think if I had been a man, he would have responded the same way. But I think he just thought I was over emotional. So that was really nice to realise that you have some kind of ability to organise, and that other people feel similarly, and that you don't have to just take it. Which I think is what we're all talking about, is just kind of staying firm and holding fast to what we believe the world should look like.
And also holding space for your community members as well. Yeah. And it's amazing that there was such a quick turnaround, because so many people were really pissed off about this very racist show. And we're like, why is this even on the program?
It's a show.
Oh, so Leah, would you?
I don't really want to get there was a white woman performing as an Asian person. And she didn't understand the optics or the racial hate that is involved in pretending to be another race. So we called Fringe out for that, and they just didn't care, which was upsetting. And now they do care.
Yeah, good on you.
Because you even care.
But it was interesting because I just hadn't experienced that kind of power imbalance or gender imbalance or for a while, because you exist in your own bubble. The arts is nice. So that was gratifying.
Definitely.
But no, I don't have to deal with awful makeup tape. Thank God.
Like outrage.
Anyways.
Looking forward to dealing with that for the next 3 days. See,
Do it.
it'll be fine. It'll be fine. It always is, in the end.
Have you found effective ways to challenge the status quo from within, like traditional institutions, if you've worked in those contexts? Or do you find that the best work is done outside of those spaces?
I don't really choose to work within traditional institutions anyway, but why don't I choose to work in traditional institutions?
That's a good question.
I think mainly, my favourite work is definitely creating work for a public platform, and the reason definitely is because it is, it's got, like a broad audience. People are not necessarily from creative backgrounds that will stumble across your work, and you'll affect a large number of very broad audience. And I think that that's the beauty of public art. So that's about all I can comment on that question, I think.
But there's your answer. You don't have to attach yourself to traditional institutions and have a much broader outreach as well.
Yeah, which is really important for me as an artist, not to be creating work that then only a certain type of people
initiated.
And that that's massive, I think.
I'm thinking about it in terms of what traditional institutions kind of expect from us, and the kind of emotional labour that is required by these institutions for us to stay there and also to make change. And it's like, obviously Liminal is outside of the institution, but we benefit greatly from institutional partnerships, and that's really interesting because they have to see me as a partner rather than as a subordinate. So I really enjoy working outside of an institution, but also with and across. But that's one thing. But I also work at Writers Victoria as digital comms, and I'm also at Unimab doing a PhD. So I'm in these very white institutions, and they expect a certain degree of respectability politics, and they respect a certain degree of if a white person or if a white person is saying something and it doesn't particularly make sense to me. What am I expected to do and how am I expected to react is quite restrictive. And I have to decide what my battle is going to be, and if I care to give energy to fighting the specific battle, and often I don't have that energy, and often I'll just conserve it for bigger things. So yeah, it's interesting, but I also like those two things pay me regularly, which is pleasant. So I will shut up sometimes in order to pay my rent.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I have these experiences a lot of having to work within very male, very white, very cis environments, so I can just afford to like keep my head above water at the end of the month when all the money comes into my bank account from the gigs and then it goes straight back out for rent. So I work, particularly those ones I find you can resist to a certain extent, but it sometimes means that the economic freedom I experienced from being able to survive off being a DJ and a stripper is like, I can't survive off money just on dancing because it's so infrequent, and I can't survive off money just from music because it's so infrequent. So there's like these two spaces where often I find I just have to shut my mouth and deal with things so I can survive, which is, it's not ideal, but I prefer it to working, a casual bar job or working in a cafe for, like way less. I usually weigh it up based on, okay, what do I want today? Do I want economic freedom or do I want to speak up? And sometimes I will speak up if something doesn't seem right to me. But yeah, often it's just I can't, because otherwise it means like no meal on the table or who's going to pay the rent.
That's the reality we live in. It's like one or the other. Yeah. Well, I'd be really interested to hear more about projects you've worked on that intersect with activist work. I know you're all really politically engaged and very passionate members of your communities. So, yeah, if you wanted to kind of draw on like any specific projects that you're really proud of that have also kind of existed within that broader activist framework.
So my most recent work is definitely talking about climate change in not necessarily a super literal, factual way. So my work is more about creating these immersive spaces that then really affects the audience, and hopefully a broad audience, to then get them to think about these broader concerns. But I did do this amazing project very recently for the Gertrude Street Projection Festival. It's not on my website yet, actually. I was so interested in the youth climate movement and how these young people are standing up and are so powerful, their voices, because they're so young, I think, and they're so determined. And I really wanted to create a project for the Gertrude Street Projection Festival that was about the youth climate movement and celebrating that. So I did a workshop at Signal Youth Arts in the City of Melbourne and invited all these young activists to come and make signs and perform a rally out the front at Signal, and I filmed that very simply on slow-mo with my iPhone. And it was so beautiful and effective, and really talks about now, I think, because it is so current, and yeah, so I can talk about that project. That was really great. Yeah, so, yeah, it was good. But I will put that on my website soon. But they were incredible, these young people. They were from, like, I think one of their mums even lied about their age, because I think you had to be 9 or 8 to like 18, and I think one of them was younger, like 1 year younger. That she was like a pocket rocket, full on, like she knew all the chant, like the chants, the chants stuff. Oh my god, it was amazing. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Very, very powerful work too. Yeah. Yeah. It's really cool.
Was it on a building that was like quite close to the...
Nicholson.
Yeah, it was closer to the... I definitely saw it.
Ah, good. Yeah. Really, really effective. These kids were amazing, yeah.
I feel like I've already said everything. I'm really excited about this book out with Brown Books. It's nice to be able to give space and just create opportunities for other people to show their work and be published nationally. But yeah, we're looking forward to creating more projects for artists to be word is elevated, I guess. But yeah, or just, it's nice to create opportunities, which I think, underpins all of our projects.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's a specific... what was the question exactly?
It's a little vague, but like, if you could kind of talk about how your work intersects with activist movement.
Okay, yeah.
Because if I may bring this work up, because I think it's incredible. You did like an experimental mix for red light radio.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's a really good example, actually. I kind of when I was thinking of works, I was thinking of major works. I was like, what major works could I mention? So that mix was, Red Light Radio is an online streaming radio station that's based in Amsterdam, in the Netherlands, and it's based in the Red Light District. And so I approached them about doing a work. I happened to be there at the time visiting a friend. I was like, I really want to play on Red Light Radio. And so I approached them about doing work that, because the space is like a window. I don't know if anyone's here has been to the Red Light District in Amsterdam. There's a window, and there's sex workers on either side, and there's in often cases a white male DJ sitting there. And I was thinking, how can my presence as someone who works in that industry give more light to the fact that I'm sharing this space with the workers? And so I kind of wanted the work to be thinking and talking about the industry there and the women's experiences there and my own experience of working in that industry. And so I performed, I created like maybe 5 or 6 tracks that I'm trying to remember exactly what I did. I took like some like snatches of audio from women talking about their experiences of the industry there, and also just sort of made tracks of my own, thinking about my own experiences, and just like mixed them. I just mixed them in with like other stuff by artists like Kosi Fanny Tuti, who's a sex worker, who was a sex worker, and was a part of Throbbing Gristle, who are a big industrial band, and just like other stuff I liked at the time, and just performed it on the radio and talked a little bit about it, and yeah, that's one.
Wow, it sounds like a great project. Yeah.
Cool. Well, I might throw it open to the audience if anyone has any questions for our lovely panel. Don't be shy.
We covered it all.
I have a question.
Yeah.
As an artist and recently a paid arts worker for the first time, I've been involved sick leave for the first time in my life.
Oh, wow.
Very nice. And I should say I work for Interview Australia, so for one of these big institutions. I've been feeling really strange about being kind of paid and valued for my time as an arts worker and hardly ever being paid or not being paid properly as an artist. And seeing we're talking about women and equality, I was wondering if you had experiences of like negotiating payment or kind of tackling a world where the artists who are usually paid are not us. Or like that kind of discrepancy when you work for an industry that is built on artistic labour that's often not valued.
Yeah, I can say it's gone a bit easier for me in the past like 8 or 9 months because I have an agent now who deals with those conversations, which is so nice. It's so nice not to have that conversation about money with, you know, promoter who owns a bunch of houses and is offering you $200 for a 2-hour set. I just, again, going back to the point of being really like firm about the time and work I'm putting in, I don't think it necessarily has to be stated the time I'm putting in. Like any promoter who knows, I'm talking specifically about promoters because they're the people I often work with in negotiating my money to time and value ratio. I usually just like have a rate that is kind of like, I don't go below that point because it's just not worth the time. Like I could just go to the strip club and work for 3 hours and make double that. But if it's a really good gig, sometimes I just will weigh it up and be like, okay, is it worth taking this opportunity for a little bit less money for the opportunities it might give me in the next 6 months? But I think I'm at the point now where I don't really have to think too much about that. Because I've got someone else representing me, and that's a really nice luxury. But before that, I'd weigh it up to myself and say what is this opportunity going to give me? Is it worth, doing the work for less and, being really stressed out about it and having to maybe turn down other opportunities because I'm taking this thing on. I don't know if that really answers the question.
Yeah, I mean, I always have kind of looked at the NAVA Code of Practice to try and establish a figure, and now I'll always overquote, always, because if they say yes, great, and if they don't, I'll just negotiate. I'm quite often getting contacted by random councils or schools or all these people like wanting to apply for a grant and engaging me as the feature artist or the mentor or, and that's fine, but then I've now put my foot down and said, you have to pay me a consultation fee. This has happened only in the last couple of years, which also means I can give them more for their applications. So I would just be like emailing back at her going, oh, this is taking all my time, you're probably not going to get it. And of course they're not going to get it because I'm not even probably giving them the best information. I'm doing that now. And I think that's, every time I'll say that, people are so fine, Like, no worries, of course, it's your time. I'm like, wow, how come I haven't been doing that for ages?
On that note, I think when you lay down from the beginning of the conversation, it's your time, you're professional.
You're valued more as well. So then when you come back and say, well, the commission or the time, like the project, it's going to cost this much, they're valuing you more because you're valuing your own time. But of course there's always going to be opportunities and things to be able to give you benefits other than monetary, I suppose. But yeah, got to be firm as well. Yeah, and open for negotiation.
I'm inspired. I want to be sassy and fierce.
Yeah.
Everything makes sense.
Just sucks that we had to learn it.
Yeah.
The hard way. Well, on that note, I might wrap things up. Thank you so much. You've all offered some really interesting insights and really valuable advice as well about how to carve out a sustainable space for yourselves across the arts. So yeah, you could all join me in thanking our amazing panellists.
Thanks. Thank you.